All, this is Akshay, and you are watching Nutrium Institute of Technology YouTube channel. In the previous video, we looked into what are the prerequisites to start a project in PHP and MySQL from scratch. So that is the operating system and the application package, XAMPP, WAMP, or LAMP stack, and HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP, and MySQL. So these are the basic things that we need to set up before starting the project. We looked into that in our previous video. So in today's video, we'll be looking at planning the modules, database design, and directory structure. Okay, so to start with the planning of modules. Okay, before starting with the uh, planning of the modules, so we will take an example project. For example, like I think we can consider a project related to billing, like a billing application using PHP and MySQL. Okay, so let's consider this as a reference project to list of the modules and do the database design. So I'm sure that we all are aware of a billing application. So in all the retail shops or in any business that uses selling of a product or service, they use a billing application to bill the customer, to send the invoice to the customer or to the businesses. So in a billing application, if we imagine, okay, so there will be a user of the billing application. There might be two users, admin, and one person who will be looking at the bills. Okay, the POS executive, point of sale. So, so on a high level, we can assume that we will be needing a user module. So user module is to manage the system users, to create the logins, to store the logins, to do the login for their access management. So once we have the user logged in, so what are the other functionalities he'll be looking at? So that is one thing is he will be doing the billing. That is, he'll be generating invoice using the point of sale system, and also he can browse all the invoices or the sales that has happened. He can generate a written slip. He can see all the returns that has happened, sales returns that has happened. So first we'll go with the POS module. Okay, point of sale module. Point of sale module are the billing module, where the executive can generate bills or generate invoices, and he can browse the invoices, and he can generate a return slip, and he can see all the list of returns. So after this billing module, what and all, so to do the billing, so there should be products or the items, right? So we need a module to manage all the items, add, edit, or update the items, and also the stock available, right? So for that, we'll be needing an items module. And to have the items, I think you will be procuring it from a supplier. So we will be needing a supplier module where we'll be tagging the items to the supplier. Okay, so as an example, I'm considering a simple project. So we'll be going with only these four modules for this billing application. Okay, now we'll be looking at the database design. Okay, so these modules will need a database to store the data. For example, user module needs a user table to store the details of the system users. POS billing module will need uh, like I think two to three tables. One is to store the invoices, one is to store the invoice items, and one is to store the returns record and written items record. So four tables, and then items module will need one table to store all the items and its stock. Supplier table will need one table to store the supplier information. So we will be needing about 3 plus 4, that is about 7 tables. So let's start listing of the tables. So one is the user table, and the second one is sales, third one is sales returns, fourth one is sales items, and return items, fifth items table, sorry, sixth one, and seventh one is supplier table. So so now we have the tables that are required in the database to store the billing information. So we need to define the fields. I mean, what are the fields that is required to store the data? For example, in user table, so we can have the record ID and the name of the user. I think we might need email, mobile number, and the address, and we'll need the created timestamp, and we might need the status of the user. So in the sales table, we will of course need a record ID and then the user ID. Okay, to which user this particular sales record or the invoice is tagged, and the subtotal, discount, tax, and final are the grand total, and also the created time and the status of the invoice. Then in sales returns, so what happens is the customer will come with a bill and he'll tell he want these items to be returned. So here we'll be needing a user ID and sales ID and a record ID of course, and then we'll be needing the amount, the total amount that we will be returning, status, and create a timestamp. So this sales items table will store all the items that are in a particular invoice. So while doing the billing, or while doing generating an invoice, you'll be selecting multiple one or multiple products or items. So those items are related to a particular invoice, a particular sales item. So will be stored in this sales items table. So it will have a record ID, and then it will have a sales ID, and then item ID, and the price of the item during the invoice generation and created timestamp. Likewise, we will be needing returns ID. For returns items also, we will be needing the record ID and returns ID and item ID, price during return or while during the sale, and created timestamp. So coming to items master, okay, actually these things should come first. Actually, the master table, items and supplier and user, and you know uh, these tables. So in items master table, we will be having an item ID, name of the item, image of the item, price, or maybe you can consider price and sales, selling price, like what is the actual price and what is the selling price, and the stock, status. Okay, before status, I think we might need supplier ID. Okay, so where we'll be tagging the item to a particular supplier, and then we need the status of the item, if it is available or not, and then create a timestamp. So for supplier table, we will be needing an ID and name of the supplier, email, mobile number, and address, and you might need a tax ID. Okay, so and then the status and created timestamp. So I think pretty much these tables will help us to get started with the the mini project. Okay, so now we have the list of modules, the modules for a billing application using PHP and MySQL. The user module, PO is our billing module, items, and supplier. I think this pretty much should serve the purpose. And then for the database design, we have seven tables, that is user table, sales, sales returns, sales items, return items, items, and supplier. So now we have the modules and database design ready. So let's look into uh, the directory structure that we need to see. Since we are not using any of the frameworks like CodeIgniter or Laravel, we'll try to do it in a plain PHP and MySQL, so that uh, the foundation, I mean, just this project we are doing it for the making the foundation strong, to making sure without any other frameworks how we'll be doing a project with a vanilla PHP or plain PHP. So we'll define the database, the directory structure in a proper way, so that we can properly handle the things. Okay, so here we'll be looking at the directory structure. Okay, so we'll be having a root directory or application root. Okay, so which will contain all the application code. Okay, so we can consider it also as like billing application. Okay, so this is the root directory. Then so we need a app folder to contain all the PHP and the view database and the UI related code. And we need a public folder. Okay, so to have all the static data like CSS, JavaScript, and images. Okay, so the first we'll try to define, and also we need a folder third party. Okay, to have all the plugins or whatever that we'll be needing, or the libraries that we'll be integrating here. Okay, so for now I think we don't will not be using any in public folder. So we'll try to define the subdirectories, that is images, sorry, and then we'll be needing CSS and JavaScript. Okay, so all your images will go into images folder, all your CSS files will go here, the external style sheets, and all your JavaScript will go into the JavaScript folder. So third party will contain all the libraries or third party plugins or whatever that we'll be using. In case if we use it, we'll put it inside the third party folder. Inside the app folder, okay, so we will be needing, I think we'll need about three subfolders. Okay, or we can consider it them as the libraries, or the library folder, where we'll be trying to put all our custom libraries, where the functions which we'll be using across the applications, which are in general, we may call it in a controller method, or we might be calling in a database related function, or we might be calling it in a view or the UI files. And then we'll be using the application, the what I can tell is the modules. Okay, the modules folder, and then the UI, or we can consider it as a view. Okay, so and also we might need one like, I think what we can do is we can have the Under modules only, for example, if we have a user module, okay, so we will have a user folder for a module, and then we'll have files. For example, one is for browsing, one is for editing, or it might be different functions, and one like controller method which will be controlling all these things, and one database related functionality. So what I can tell is that module user, I think these should be enough. We'll be having about 3 to 4 files. One is for database functionality, okay, and then one is for user.php, and then the UI related files, that is you browse, maybe create, edit, something like this. I mean, based on our requirement, we'll be trying to figure it out, like what are the fields that is required. But for surely we'll be needing a database like functions file, and we'll be needing a user.php. If it is a user module, we'll be needing a user.php file to control all the user actions, and then we'll be needing a views folder under which we'll be putting all the UI related controls, UI related files. Okay, so I think this is pretty much enough to get started with the project. So we have modules, we have database, and we have the directory structure that is required to get started with. So pretty much now I'm sure that you have got an idea like how we will be getting it started. Okay, so like in this video, we'll be ending over here, and in our next video, we'll be looking at like getting started with the coding part, and also the database will define the database like table definitions, and we'll try to create using the MySQL workbench, and we'll also see how to set up PHP and other MySQL things if it is not already there, and then we'll try to get started with the like basic user module. So anyway, thank you for watching. If you like our video, just hit the like button, and also if you have not subscribed yet, you just hit the subscribe, and then also share with your friends and family, whoever is in need of this information. Thank you so much.